There's a room at the end of a hallway. Quiet, dim. The blinds are drawn halfway, letting in a stripe of pale morning light that falls across a thinning blanket. In the center of the bed lies a body, small now, curled inward. The breath is shallow, like the flutter of moth wings against a windowsill. The machines are silent. No beeps, no alarms, just the soft hiss of oxygen and the occasional creak of the floorboards when someone shifts their weight outside the door. This is not a hospital. There are no fluorescent lights or rushing nurses. This is home, and this is dying. But death doesn't arrive in a moment. It comes slowly, like dusk spilling through a window. It lingers, it waits. And in that waiting, someone is always there. Not a doctor, not a priest, not a relative, but someone who enters quietly, wipes the corners of a mouth, replaces a damp pillow, holds a hand that no longer grips back. Someone who knows how to sit in silence without needing to fill it. This is the story of the home hospice aide. Not a healer of bodies, but a keeper of comfort, a witness to the final hours that most of us never see. And in those hours, she gives the only thing left to give: presence. Welcome to Unsung Hands, where silent hands are finally given a voice. Here, we tell the stories that time forgot, stories of those who work quietly behind the scenes, building the world while no one notices, jobs that never make the headlines, but without them, nothing runs. If you believe that every life deserves to be heard, hit like to support these quiet but powerful stories. And don't forget to subscribe to Unsung Hands, so each week we can uncover another hidden chapter of the human journey together. Maria arrives at 7:43 a.m. The sky is still soft with morning mist. The lawn out front is overgrown. A newspaper lies on the porch, unopened. She steps quietly up the path, her shoes barely making a sound. The door opens before she knocks. A woman stands there, mid-40s, hair pulled back tight, eyes swollen from a sleepless night. She tries to smile, but the corners of her mouth quiver. "You must be Maria." Maria nods. "Good morning. I'm here to care for Ellen." The woman steps aside, motioning her in. "I'm her daughter, Claire." The house is still. Photographs line the walls, vacations, birthdays, people who look like they used to laugh a lot. The laughter has long since faded. Now the air smells like antiseptic and lavender lotion. Clean, controlled, but sad, in a way only a house waiting for death can be. Claire speaks in a hush. "She stopped eating yesterday. She barely opens her eyes now," the nurse said. "Maybe a few days." Maria just nods. She doesn't say, "I'm sorry." She doesn't say, "It'll be okay." Words like those don't belong in rooms like this. She walks down the hallway, her bag in one hand. At the end is a closed door. She opens it gently. The room is dim. A single lamp glows in the corner. In the bed lies Ellen Whitaker, frail, almost transparent. Her breaths are slow, deliberate. Her eyes flutter but don't open. Maria places her bag on the chair. She steps to the bed, kneels, and gently touches Ellen's hand. "Good morning, Ellen. I'm here now." The hand is cold, but it doesn't pull away. Maria doesn't expect a response. She doesn't need one. Being there is enough. In this room, filled with silence and endings, her presence is the first soft beginning. The next morning, Maria returns just after sunrise. She brings a fresh basin, clean towels, a bar of mild soap. She places them on the side table, neatly, carefully, like someone setting the table for a guest who deserves dignity. Claire watches from the doorway. "Do you need help?" she asks, her voice thin. Maria shakes her head gently. "You can sit with her if you'd like, or step out, whatever feels right today." Claire lingers a moment longer, then backs away slowly. Maria closes the door halfway. In the quiet, she hums to herself a slow melody from her childhood. Spanish words, soft and rounded, not meant to be understood, only felt. She warms the water with care. She dips the cloth and wrings it out, steam rising like breath. Then she begins. Not with haste, not like a task, but like a ritual. She starts at the forehead, tracing gentle arcs around Ellen's temples, as if washing away memories that have grown too heavy. Down the neck, across the shoulders, beneath the frail arms that no longer lift themselves. She moves the blanket, one fold at a time, always covering what's not being cleaned, always keeping Ellen warm. Every touch is tender, every motion respectful. This isn't just about hygiene. It's about reminding a body that once carried children, once danced, once knelt in gardens and stood in church pews, that it is still worthy of care, still worthy of being seen, still human, even in its unraveling. Maria hums as she works. She doesn't speak. There is no need. And when she's done, she dries Ellen's skin with a towel warmed in the dryer. She brushes her hair, slowly, gently, smoothing out the strands like winding down time. Then she whispers, "There we go, Ellen. Clean and fresh, just like always." She folds the used towels neatly, places the basin by the door, and sits by the bed. Ellen's chest rises and falls, shallow but steady. Maria stays a little longer. Sometimes, care doesn't look like medicine. It looks like warm water and a steady hand. It looks like someone showing up, day after day, to honor a body the world has already begun to forget. In this room, in this moment, that body is sacred. On the third day, Ellen speaks. Not much, not clearly, but words begin to tumble out quiet, cracked, like fallen leaves brushing across a porch. Maria is sitting by the window, knitting a square for a blanket she'll never finish. The room is quiet, except for the soft rasp of breath and the occasional chirp of a bird outside. Then a whisper. "James." Maria looks up. She walks to the bed, leans in. "Did you say something, Ellen?" Ellen's eyes are open now, not wide, not fully focused, but seeing, somewhere between this world and the one she's drifting toward. Maria kneels beside her. Ellen blinks slowly. Her lips move again. "James," she says, more clearly this time. "He had green eyes." Maria doesn't ask who James is. She doesn't need to. Instead, she says, "Green eyes. That sounds lovely." And Ellen smiles. What follows is not a story, not a conversation, but fragments, a flicker of a memory, a train platform, a stolen kiss, a letter that never came, a promise no one kept. Maria listens. She nods. She offers soft, sounds, just enough to keep the space open. Sometimes, Claire passes by the door and pauses. She hears names she doesn't recognize, places never mentioned, a version of her mother that existed long before she was born. She doesn't interrupt. She simply listens from the hallway, one foot in the past, one foot in the grief that is coming. Later, Maria will write down a few of the words Ellen said, not for the chart, not for the records, but for the daughter, if she ever asks. Because in these final days, the dying speak differently. They don't tell stories to be understood. They release them like smoke through an open window. They speak for themselves, to unburden, to remember, to let go. And someone has to be there to receive them. Maria knows this. She has heard confessions whispered to ceilings, love letters uttered with the last ounce of strength, apologies too late, and forgiveness whispered just in time. These aren't conversations that happen in everyday life. They are sacred, delicate, suspended between the living and the leaving. Maria doesn't try to make sense of them. She just listens. And that, sometimes, is the greatest act of love. By the fifth day, Ellen no longer speaks. Her eyes stay closed, her lips are dry, her breathing slow. Uneven fills the room like the ticking of an old clock, counting down something no one dares name. Maria still talks to her. She tells her about the morning, that the birds were loud today, that the sun looked like honey on the porch railing, that Claire made coffee but forgot to drink it. She brushes Ellen's hair, strokes her hand, changes her position every few hours, moistens her lips with a damp sponge, all of it done with care, with tenderness. But the silence has grown deeper, not just in the room, in the air, in the house. Claire speaks less now, too. She moves quietly, carries plates to the sink, wipes down clean counters, sits on the couch but doesn't turn on the television. She checks her phone and puts it down again. There's nothing to plan, nothing to prepare, only waiting. And waiting feels like a betrayal of time too slow, too sacred. At midday, Maria pulls up a chair and sits beside Ellen's bed. She doesn't speak. She just sits, one hand resting gently on Ellen's arm, the other folded in her lap. Outside, a dog barks once. Somewhere down the street, a lawnmower hums. But here, in this room, everything is still. This is the silence after the stories have ended, after the regrets have been whispered, after the last memories have surfaced and drifted away. Maria knows this kind of silence. It is not empty. It is full of presence, of weight, of something unseen settling into place. Sometimes this silence lasts hours, sometimes days. It is not something to be filled. It is something to be honored. Maria closes her eyes for a moment. She listens to Ellen's breathing, slower now, paused, then returns, then pauses again. It is like listening to a tide pulling farther and farther out. Eventually, it will not return. But for now, Maria waits. She stays. Because in this silence after the last word, before the last breath, no one should be alone. It happens just after 3 a.m. There is no warning, no dramatic moment, no final words. Just a breath, then a pause, and then nothing. Maria had dozed off in the chair beside the bed, her hand still resting gently on Ellen's arm. It was the soft stillness that woke her, not a sound, but the absence of one. She opened her eyes slowly. The room was the same, dim, quiet. A faint breeze from the cracked window stirred the curtain. But something had changed. Maria leaned forward, watching Ellen's chest. No rise, no fall. She waited. 10 seconds, 15. Still nothing. She touched the wrist. No pulse. She placed her other hand gently over Ellen's heart. It had stopped. Maria closed her eyes. She whispered softly, "She's gone." She didn't cry. She didn't panic. She simply sat with her for 1 full minute. Because even after death, the body deserves company. Then she stood, smoothed the sheets, and stepped into the hallway. Claire was already there, her face pale, her eyes wide but dry. Maria nodded once. That was all it took. Claire walked into the room. She stood at the bedside, looked down at her mother. And then, finally, she wept. Maria let her. She went to the kitchen, boiled water, made tea neither of them would drink, called the hospice nurse, called the funeral home, moved gently through the motions. And then, when the nurse arrived and confirmed the time of death, Maria returned to the bedroom. She washed Ellen's body one last time. This bath was different. There was no rush, no need to avoid discomfort. The body was still now, peaceful, unburdened. Maria used warm water, a fresh towel. She moved slowly, reverently. She dressed her in the nightgown Claire had chosen, a soft blue cotton with lace at the collar. She brushed her hair, folded her hands, straightened the blanket, and then she placed a single daisy on the pillow beside her head. Claire stood in the doorway, watching. She looks Like herself, she said, her voice trembling. Maria nodded. She was always herself. And then they sat side by side until the car came to take the body away. There were no words left to say. But everything important had already been spoken. The house feels different after the body is gone. The bed is still there. The lamp still glows. But the center of the room, the quiet gravity that held everything in place, is now missing. Claire moves slowly through the kitchen, touching things without realizing: coffee mugs, folded linens, Ellen's favorite spoon still drying on the rack. Grief doesn't arrive all at once. It seeps in through the smallest cracks. Maria helps pack a few things: the lotion by the bedside, the unused medicine, the basin she always brings, still warm from the last cleaning. She doesn't offer advice. She doesn't say, "Be strong." She simply moves with grace, steady and soft. When she hugs Claire goodbye, it is brief but full. The kind of embrace that says, "You are not alone," even though it feels like it now. Then she steps outside. The morning is bright. Birdsong fills the air. A car engine hums somewhere nearby. Life, as it always does, continues. Maria takes a slow breath. Her next visit is scheduled for 10:30 a.m. Different house, different family, different name on the chart, but the rhythm will be the same. A hallway, a quiet room, a bed with soft sheets, a body near the end. She will knock gently, enter slowly, smile kindly, and begin again. Because this is what she does. She walks with people in their last days. She holds hands that tremble, listens to stories no one else ever heard, washes faces that the world no longer sees. And when the breath stops, she stays just a little longer. Then she moves on. Not because it doesn't matter, but because it matters so much, it must be carried forward. This is the quiet work of goodbye, the sacred care of the ones who stay behind. This story follows a home hospice aide who quietly walks beside those at the end of life. She's not a doctor, not a relative, but a gentle presence in a quiet room where death draws near. She brings no cures, only care, a warm towel, a steady hand, a listening ear. She honors fading bodies, receives whispered memories, and stays beside the dying through the long, silent hours. When the final breath comes, she washes the body one last time, with tenderness and dignity. Then she moves on to another house, another goodbye, carrying the quiet weight of love and loss with her. She doesn't heal, but she makes death gentler and sorrow less lonely. She is the silent witness at the threshold between life and forever.